Show me your moves.
Right at the end. R.I.P.
Well,
R.I.P. Good morning, Night City, and welcome to another episode of Geek Life, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. I'm your host with the most for the evening, Jake the Great, aka Gonzo. Dot is currently fighting off White Walkers in Texas. That's what we're calling Ted Cruz these days. Thanks, Dots, for that joke. May the long night end soon, good friend. If you're new to the show, we are about a 2.5 hour-ish mashup of all the pop culture news that you know and love. We talk about all of your favorite shows, movies, video games, and generally all the nerdy content you want us to whisper in your ear late at night. Joining me today is the man who made 5 beats a day for 3 summers. It's Kev, aka Toddly Awesome. How are you doing today, Kev?
I'm doing fantastic, Jake. It's the last day of Mercury retrograde, and it is showing its full force.
Yeah, no, if we have some technical difficulties, you all know what it is. And so,
right.
And back this week to tell the game devs to nerf this, it's Space Nymph herself, Bronwyn the Warrior Princess. How are you doing today, Bron?
I'm doing well. I agree with you, Kev. Mercury is in full effect right now, but we are all powering through, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you this evening.
I was always skeptical, but now I don't know. I'm starting to come around. It's weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, not to show my age, but I just turned 30, and I'm even starting to say, dude, if it'll change something, throw some crystals. Where's some crystals?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go bathe in the moon
burn
real quick.
Sage.
Whatever I can do. Nice. There we go.
There we go. All right.
Cool. Well, how's the week been treating you guys? I know, it's Sunday. We're about to kick it into gear on Monday, but what have you guys been watching to get you through the apocalypse so far?
I just got caught up on WandaVision.
Yes.
And
we'll be getting into that later.
Yes, we will. And I'm actually, believe it or not, really getting to Breath of the Wild. So if I've been MIA on Xbox friends, that's why. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that is a big time suck.
I've been doing the same, like WandaVision, Breath of the Wild. I actually started rewatching some of the Community.
Okay. Community's great.
I haven't watched it in a while, and it's been fun to kind of dive back in because they really sort of go through different tropes in media and film and TV throughout every episode. Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
Dan Harmon really crushes that. That's, I mean, the last season's a little iffy, but the rest of them really great. After Donald Glover's gone, it's just it's a different show. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I was literally about to say classic Donald Glover until it's not anymore.
Oh yeah,
Donald Glover.
Troy and Abed in the morning. Like, you can't beat it. That was just too perfect. So
you can't. Yeah.
Well, before we get started, a quick reminder to everyone that if you like what you see here on the show tonight, feel free to follow us or follow us on Twitch or at Geeklife Live on any of our other social medias. Or for even more content, you can follow us on our own personal social medias. Mine is at GonzoGonLive. Kev, tell them where they can find you at.
Kevin Todd Jr. and on Twitch, Totally Awesome.
Awesome. And Bron, where can the people find you at?
You could find me at Space Nymph on Instagram and on Twitch.
Amazing. Awesome. And you can find me on the back of a Ford tailgate. No, I'm just kidding. That's a country song. We have a great show planned for y'all. Kev, hit them with the rundown.
Yeah, Jake, you don't have to risk your soul in some kind of Mortal Kombat for this week's top stories because we got them for free. It's time for the rundown. We'll start with the top headlines from the week. Get over here. I'm talking to you, April 16th. You just can't come fast enough. The last of the Defenders are home, and Ubisoft is still updating For Honor. What? Okay. And this week's top stories, everything you need to know from BlizzCon Online and the latest Nintendo Direct. More like indirect, am I right? We'll get into that later. Then we'll head over to the Watercooler, where we'll be discussing all the latest theories from WandaVision. And finally, we'll wrap things up with this week's Deep Dive, where we'll deep dive on what makes a great season finale, which transitions so smoothly into our top 10, the top 10 season finales of all time. But that's enough for the pregame. Bron, what's been going on this week?
Thanks, Kev. This week, Kombat's long-awaited trailer dropped this week. The first Mortal Kombat movie trailer for the rebooted film is here, and it's got all the fatalities Mortal Kombat fans could have hoped for. Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Liu Kang, Jax, and many more iconic fighters from the Mortal Kombat universe make appearances as we get our first look at the action that'll support the new and original Mortal Kombat story. The Mortal Kombat movie is scheduled to release on April 16th, so there's still plenty of time for more posters, trailers, and other previews to be shared before we're able to see the full production. Plus, shameless plug, you can always watch our reaction to it on our YouTube channel. Thanks, Jake, for that wonderful reaction. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then next in our news, Fall Guys is coming to Xbox and Switch. Mediatonic has announced that Fall Guys will be coming to Xbox Series XS and Xbox One this summer. In a post on Xbox Wire, lead game designer Joe Walsh revealed that Fall Guys is headed to the current and last generation of Xbox consoles this summer, placing it just under a year behind the PlayStation 4 release, which happened August 2020. No further reveals were made, but the news comes hot on the heels of the announcement of Fall Guys coming to Nintendo Switch, which was revealed as part of the latest Nintendo Direct, which we'll be getting into later in the show. The Switch version is also launching in the summer, so it may be that both Xbox and Switch versions launch during a similar window. For Honor adds new Shovel Knight outfits. Despite launching over 4 years ago at this point, Ubisoft very much continues to support its multiplayer action game For Honor on a regular basis. As of this week, however, the game has received a rather notable new update that should make fans of one of the most popular indie games around quite happy. That's right, Shovel Knight. The titular character from the popular platforming series by Yacht Club Games has now made his way into For Honor. For a limited time between now and March 4th, For Honor players can acquire a variety of in-game gear that is based on the shovel-wielding hero. Nice. Next in our news, Marvel gets Punisher, Jessica Jones rights back from Netflix. Marvel has regained the live-action rights to Jessica Jones and the Punisher from Netflix. This means all the Marvel characters Netflix previously held the live-action rights to, including Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, have reverted to Marvel. As reported by comicbook.com, the multi-year deal between Marvel and Netflix has officially come to a close now that the last remaining Marvel heroes Netflix held the rights to are back with Marvel, the latter of which has recently spun up its own TV originals on Disney Plus with shows like WandaVision and Falcon and The Winter Soldier. Last in our news of the day, Hogwarts Legacy lead designer used to run anti-social justice YouTube channels. Troy Levitt is a lead designer at Warner Brothers Development Studios Avalanche Software, currently working on controversial Harry Potter game Hogwarts Legacy. He also ran a reactionary YouTube channel focused on attacking feminism and social justice for over a year. This information was first provided by Did You Know Gaming contributor Liam Robertson, who highlighted the channel Friday evening on Twitter. An accompanying screenshot shows a small portion of Levitt's YouTube channel with videos titles such as The Injustice of Social Justice and Praise of Cultural Appropriation and Our Thought Crimes Becoming Real, the latter a reference to the George Orwell dystopian sci-fi novel 1984. Right-wing commentators often use the book's authoritarian Big Brother government as a comparison point in their criticism, likening the fiction surveillance state to real-world equality movements. Not too crazy of a week, but I know Jake's reaction to the Mortal Kombat trailer was, oh shit, what do you think, Kev?
Oh shit, indeed. Gosh, I'm still skeptical. I'm not gonna lie, as I am with Godzilla and Kong. I'll get into that later. But that trailer, it did tickle my goosebumps. I'm not gonna lie. Like just one of the CGI looks good. I think they did like I don't know. It looked like there was a Scorpion origin story, like something brief. Maybe they'll get to maybe there's like a sort of backstory on the clans, right? Scorpion and Sub-Zeros respectively. So I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there, but I said I had a lot of oh shit moments. So I'm pretty excited for it, especially since it's coming straight to streaming. That's going to be great.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really good. Like, obviously, I'm excited for it. If you watch the reaction video, oh shit's just about all I could say because, dude, there's just so much to unpack from that trailer. And so,
yeah.
But what about Fall Guys? I know saw that Kev, you were a little hype about that one. Are you guys excited about Fall Guys coming to Xbox and Switch?
Yes, dude. Because I've never played. I've always wanted to. I obviously don't own a PlayStation. I'm not on PC, but I first saw it coming to the Switch. I was like, damn, yes, hell yeah. Then saw it was coming to Xbox. Like, oh, perfect. I'm going to finally be able to play this. So,
yeah,
it's smart, right? Like we discussed this before that it's a fad. It's kind of a fad game. It's sort of the hype has died down, especially with Among Us and stuff. So maybe this is something for them to kind of thrust themselves back into the spotlight.
No,
this feels like something made for the Switch too. Like the cutest gaming console ever should have the cutest little game. I'm just very excited for that. I'm excited to whip off my Joy-Cons and like share it with a friend and play some Fall Guys together. Hopefully, that sounds like it would be fun.
No, that would be, and I hope it runs similar to how like Fortnite has all of your like accounts connected because it's a free to play game. So that you can just have your skins that you have on PC, transfer over to Xbox, transfer to the Switch. I kind of like hope it's connected like all of that, and if so, that's going to be awesome because I can now pick it up on my Switch, take it to go. I may definitely get back into Fall Guys. I forgot how much fun it really is. But what about the Marvel and Punisher getting Jessica Jones or Marvel getting Punisher and Jessica Jones rights back? I know that's got a lot of fans hype. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. Yeah. Both underrated shows. It's sad that whole Netflix Marvel universe got canned for obviously just because of Disney Plus, but it's glad that they were able to work something out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just 100%. To see what they do with those characters, because you see so much exciting stuff that Disney Plus is doing, like kind of pushing the boundaries with the characters that they have. And I just want to see what they'll do with these ones who are just so great and their whole worlds being so intertwined. Kind of see what happens there.
And I'm wondering if Disney Plus just went ahead and gave it back to Netflix because obviously like those shows were TVMA. So Disney Plus doesn't have any of that content on their platform. I don't think they're going to be doing any of that. So I wonder if they're going to test the waters with this, and who knows, maybe they'll drop the Deadpool movie on there too.
That would be interesting. Because Fox has been kind of digging their heels in on that one for a while, and a few other ones like Fantastic Four, the mutants in general, X-Men, all of those guys. But this is interesting because it pretty much means that the last of the Defenders are back home at Marvel, and so we could actually see some Marvel-produced Defenders, kind of like material, which would be phenomenal. And I honestly hope they keep the same cast. I think Netflix killed it with the castings. And so, Luke Cage was awesome. Punisher was a great casting. Jessica Jones was a great casting. And so, I kind of hope they keep those characters, castings. But, it gets a little tricky. They never really do that. But yeah. And then Hogwarts Legacy, guys. That was a big one that kind of just came out recently where, Hogwarts has already this game has already been in hot water due to, obviously, the J.K. Rowling, the author, spouting off all of her nonsense on Twitter and, basically getting Harry Potter canceled for a lot of people who were super huge fans of the series. And this game is something that's been long awaited. And it's done as much as it can from a PR angle to say we are not associated with her, right? To separate themselves. And then you find the lead designer is running anti-social justice YouTube channels, where he's talking about like how to cancel culture, basically like spouting off the same shit that, Cara Dune just got canned for. So it's crazy to see that one even come out so late in the game because I was honestly getting kind of hyped for this game and thinking, you know what? I know JK makes the money, but this is a game I wanted to play for a long time. They've come out and said that we have no connection. We're very much separated. But then you get some shit like this.
And what a weird trope that side has where it's like, oh yeah, you're a social justice warrior. Like that's supposed to be a bad thing. Like they say it in a derogatory way, but it's like, why is fighting for someone's justice wrong?
Oh, I know.
That's another argument, right? Like it's like, oh, you're a human rights activist. Ooh, you know, like, what? I'm gonna start an anti-social justice platform.
Yeah,
Like, what?
fuck human rights, and you're just like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, what is your stance, man? You know,
right? Like, what a weird thing to put a soapbox on. It's anyway.
100%. But that's not all the news that we have for this week. Our top story is BlizzCon Nintendo Direct, Nintendo Direct, BlizzCon Online. Anyway, it's something with Blizzard Online and Nintendo. BlizzCon Direct.
Yeah.
I mean, BlizzCon Online and Nintendo Direct. Two big dogs in the video game industry dropped some massive news bombs on us this week, from a nice Breath of the Wild cock tease that made us all want to throw our Switches at toddlers, and Blizzard announcement. Blizzard announced some huge titles. And by huge titles, I mean they announced one huge title, Overwatch 2. And Kev, you actually said there was a little bit of controversy with that. What's up with that? I know you said something in the Discord.
It's a mixed bag. Some people are excited. Some people are not, or they were expecting more. Right? Overwatch 2 has been pushed back for so long, and really the Overwatch. If you follow the Overwatch community, they're very critical of Overwatch itself. And from the polls that I'm getting, a lot of people have been losing faith in Blizzard in this. I disagree. I think it's like they're still playing the game, right? Obviously, and they still care about it. I just think that I think that's the controversy where they were expecting the game to be out like in May, which isn't realistic. And I'm all here for developers taking their time with stuff. Cyberpunk. Yeah. So, I'm like, if something's delayed, it's fine. And I mean, I still play Overwatch on the regular, and Overwatch 2 really is just going to be a continuation with new skins and characters of the PvP platform, but they're going to add PvE, and it'll probably be like optimized for, the Series X, PS5, and, PC's always optimized, so it doesn't matter there. Yeah. But I see where the controversy is. I'm not really that on board with it.
Yeah, no, I was a big Overwatch player for a little while, and then kind of fell off on it. And I think Overwatch 2, especially if, like you said, if they bring some player versus everything, if they just give us more story, I think the spinoffs that Blizzard has done with all of the animated series and stuff with Overwatch, building the lore and everything around it has been incredible. But the game itself did eventually feel stale. And so, it's going to be interesting to see if 2 can pump a little bit of life into it, even though it kind of just looks like a reskin with some new heroes and a few new elements. But but that's not the only kind of disappointing news. Nintendo Direct this past week pretty, much wanted us all to rage quit life after this Breath of the Wild tease they gave us. Bron, did you get a chance to check out Nintendo Direct? Did you see what they did, or do you know anything about what they did there?
I watched Nintendo Direct, and man, I am so excited for Skyward Sword, I guess.
Dude, I love how he comes out and he's just like, I know that I'm here, so you're probably thinking you're getting some Breath of the Wild news, but you're not. Sorry, we don't have any updates for you. And
I know they want to take their sweet time, and it felt like it took forever for us to get Breath of the Wild, but it was perfect. So I'll give them that time to give us a new game. And it wasn't all losses. I mean, I am excited for the new characters in Smash Ultimate. Like, we get some. I'm excited to play with Pyra and Mithra. Like, that should be fun.
Yeah. Kev, what are your thoughts on the new Smash players? Because that was a big one. It's actually had the internet's been kind of in an uproar about them as well.
So I've never really played Xenoblade. From what I've heard, though, it's like I think one of our nerd herders, Sag, was telling me about it, and they seem like some pretty legit characters. But just to get back to the Nintendo Direct, I think I agree with Bron and everybody else. I was very disappointed that there was no new Zelda news, no new Pokemon news, just no new news. So especially with like the 35th anniversary, I was like, well, maybe they're saving it for Sunday, and I was like, come on, Kevin, that doesn't make any sense. Because here we are today, it's Sunday, 35th anniversary, and crickets. So I think that's what we're getting. You know what I was really hoping for, though? I was just like, maybe a new emulator, like an N64 or GameCube emulator or something, but
No,
it was meh.
Xbox still reigns supreme on backwards compatibility. Like, I really wish that at least Nintendo would do better on the emulators, especially for some of the, like, they do have Donkey Kong Country 2, some of the original Super Mario Brothers, like you can play those. But which, speaking of the original Super Mario Brothers, did you guys see the Animal Crossing Mario update? That looked fucking adorable.
I did. Yeah.
I think that was something separate from Direct, but the fact that I can put warp pipes on my island and go to different places, like, oh shit, like I may actually play Animal Crossing again, which I'm like the biggest person who's guilty of putting essentially 200 hours into this game. Like, put in an ungodly amount of hours and then just nothing. Like, my villagers probably think I died. And so
I was about to say, are you sure you want to go back to your village?
Yeah,
Who knows what it's become? Like,
dude, they're just gonna be like, "Holy, we thought you had died!" And like all of them are starving in like a desolate wasteland.
Tom Nook is completely taken over. Right. Tom Nook statues.
You have to stop him. And it's like, who? And then all you hear is, the fuck is that? What about the Star Wars Hunters game? Did you guys get a chance to check out anything around that too? Because Nintendo Direct dropped that one in there kind of like, nonchalantly, as if no one was going to freak the fuck out over a new Star Wars game.
Yeah. So I'm still confused. It's like a MOBA, right? Like from what I could gather. Yeah. I'm interested. I'll definitely check it out. I was like, it was like a roller coaster. I was like, oh, Star Wars. I was like, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, we'll see.
It's going to be squad based and it's a Switch game. So, we're going to have to like tamper our expectations, right? Or curb our enthusiasm, if you will. But, but it's still going to be interesting to see how it pans out. So,
it'll be fine.
Well, that, it was kind of a slow week for headlines. I mean, there was a lot that kind of came in towards, obviously with, BlizzCon and Nintendo Direct and everything. But, everything else, was pretty bland. But thankfully, it wasn't a slow week for the citizens of Westview. Let's jump right into our next segment, the Watercooler. Run that intro, Kate.
So smooth.
Yeah, I think Kate messed up the intro.
Oh, no.
It's okay, though. Welcome back. Welcome to the Watercooler fan. This week, we're going to be talking about WandaVision, the show that's heating up and nearing its end. And so we thought we'd head over to the Watercooler and break down what's happening so far, talk about some of the theories, and just discuss what we've been loving and hating from the show so far. Obviously, there's going to be some spoilers ahead. So, hopefully you're up to date on the latest episode because that's directly what we're getting into. In last week's episode, Breaking the Fourth Wall, the show reveals that Wanda's chatty neighbor, Agnes, has actually been, and you can sing it with me, Agatha all along. It's actually a real bop. It's been all over TikTok.
It is.
She's the witch, Agatha Harkness, which is something I think all fans were waiting on, kind of being, exposed there. And she's been behind many of the events in Westview that Wanda didn't create herself. She actually created the recast Petro. She manipulated the Vision into realizing that something was wrong, and she even killed Sparky. Which RIP. That was a real
Sparky. That really pissed me off. That made me sad.
A lot of fans have been theorizing that even with the catchy jingle of Agatha all along, the dark Mephisto is really the one behind it all. For all his scheming and evil deeds, Mephisto probably had the biggest impact on the Marvel Universe thanks to an inadvertent connection to Scarlet Witch. In the comics, Wanda's abilities are both mystical and mutant in nature. Her magic is affected by and sometimes enhanced by her chaotic mutant abilities to alter probabilities. After a disastrous run-in with the Fantastic Four, the demon's essence was shattered into pieces and dispersed across the world. Wanda, in her desperate search for happiness with Vision, unknowingly used two of those fragments to create her twins, Tommy and Billy. The children are not real, her friend and mentor Agatha Harkness later explained. They are manifestations of Wanda's will. So needless to say, we've got a lot of questions here. This reveal almost kind of makes it feel like that it's, destined to have some sort of tie to Mephisto. And there's also a lot of theories popping up about Agnes in general. And is she really the one running the show here? So, my question to start us off is, was this reveal just to show us, to kind of throw us off for an even bigger villain that's coming up next?
It could be, I think, right? Like, I don't think they're going to bury the lead too far in or too early on because they do have to do. I'm assuming they're going to do more seasons of this, so this could be like a taste of what's to come, And I think they're trying to throw us off our. I mean, they don't have to throw us off too much, She killed Sparky, so it's already they're already trying to make us hate her as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, it brings up a big one. Is like so obviously she's kind of evil. She killed Sparky. Yeah. But is Agatha's presence a lock for Mephisto to be the next big thing, I guess? Like, what do you get? Yeah. Do you guys think that that while she is the big bad, do you think she's the big bad, or maybe just a kind of like reeling us in for the big bad?
I mean, they've already been reeling us in because at first we thought this was entirely Wanda's world and she was the one in control of everything. And so I think that they have had this kind of like, ooh, this is the real, like this person's actually pulling the strings. Yeah. And then again, oh no, this person's pulling the strings. Yeah. And then who else could be? We don't know. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past them to have a bigger bad out there for us to deal with later on. But for now, I think that Agatha is going to be the driving force on like the villain side of this.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you guys want to know a theory that I just heard actually not too long today or earlier today? And I was telling it to, I believe, Cape a little earlier. And I don't know, Kev, if you were on or not, but like, so essentially in the song that I even sang earlier or whatever, it's a man's voice who's talking about like, who's that messing up everything? And then she says, it was Agatha all along. And so the theory is that the man's voice is actually the big bad. And Agatha's been messing up his plan. And his plan was to make Wanda think that, basically live in this reality forever and not notice anything. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Agatha's actually being a friend and ally to Wanda by trying to make her snap out of it. But she can't just like make her snap out of it. So she's been having to pull the strings behind the scenes and do little weird shit like, make the dude wake up, make Vision kind of realize things to kind of push Wanda out of this sleep, if you will. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they got all that from just the song. So I don't know how much levity is there, but like, oh shit.
A lot.
It's Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's one of the bits. I heard that theory earlier today and I was like, dude, that's good shit. Like if that comes out to be, if that's real, like if that's what it is, if there's really, a big bad behind it, Agatha's actually like, because if you don't know, in the comics, Agatha is actually a big kind of like a mentor, if you will, to Scarlet Witch. And so it would be interesting that she's not the big bad. We kind of like, they blame it, make it look like it's been Agatha all along. She's the bad guy. But in reality, she's kind of just been trying to push Wanda out of this fog, if you will, Yeah. So in the comics, eventually, Mephisto reabsorbs the pieces of his dark soul and destroys the children. This shatters Wanda's heart. Harkness attempts to erase their memory from Wanda's mind to like kind of help spare her from the grief. This would prove to be catastrophic in time as the resulting stress would lead to the events of House of M and the subsequent decimation of mutant powers on Earth. And so, basically, where are the two boys at right now? That was kind of like something that the show left a cliffhanger on last week. Yeah. And so if there's been a lot of theories about Mephisto. Now we don't know where the boys are. Like part of it is him reabsorbing them in that comic. And so I think that one's a pretty interesting kind of like, theory as of right now as well. What do you guys think?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I go for it.
That's true. Yeah. Cause I think, like you said, maybe it's they're really trying to play out this whole thing, and I'm wondering how far they can go into it, the whole mutants thing, with because obviously there's a lot of ties with X-Men and Professor Xavier when it comes to Scarlet Witch, if you will, Wanda. So I'm wondering how much they're going to try and I guess fill in the gaps with it. I'm sure they can do a lot. Like they're just missing the X-Men, which I know is a whole lot, but still they can like they've done a great job with the universe. They have already plugging in pieces and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see where they go with this, but I'm still harking back that I think Mephisto is 100% confirmed. I think you're right, even with the song and got the wheels turning with the conspiracy theory there. Like maybe that is a thing. I don't know.
Gotcha. Do you want to know one more that kind of gets it going too?
Yeah,
So
go for it.
Mephisto is kind of known as the collector of souls, right? He's Marvel's kind of Satan in a way, right? But in Marvel and in comic books, there's a lot of different guys who've tried to carry the moniker of the devil. But anyway, Mephisto's a soul collector, and we know that. And so it's been bringing up the question is, where did the souls go during the snap? You know, Monica has been a big kind of part of this show. She came back post snap, right? And you know, some theories have been could the souls have went to Mephisto, and now is he back because it's post snap, and he's wondering where the hell are all my souls?
That's deep. Damn, it could be. Yeah, that'd be crazy. That'd be crazy.
Speaking of the snap, why don't you tell us your Easter egg, Kev?
Yeah, so my thing is maybe that is something to that, Jake, because I don't know if you guys noticed. Maybe I'm looking too deep into this, but if you saw the brand of cereal that Wanda was eating, it was called Sugar Snaps. So maybe there's some sort of tease there, as opposed, you know, a nod to Thanos, if you will.
That would be really
maybe that's tied into your whole Mephisto theory.
No, it really does. I mean, like, at least I think so anyway. I think it's kind of a lock, but then you never know. Like, I think they could throw us for a loop, but there are a few things that we do know, like, you know, or at least I feel like Wanda could have struck a deal with the devil to get the idyllic life that she wants. And what we're seeing now is the repercussions of that. And so what do you guys think about that? What about you, Bronwyn?
Sorry. Go ahead, Bron. I'll come.
We'll see the mind explosion later. I mean, I think that she could have that, but I think that Wanda's a little bit smarter than that, and that she wouldn't accept a deal with the devil. So I think that there's a little bit more, or maybe this is like just a part of that manipulation of trying to get her to accept the deal. I'm not sure, but I don't think that she's going to outright just be like susceptible to that.
Guys, what if Tyler Hayward is Mephisto?
Oh, now that would be the crazy one.
Right. Yeah. Maybe we're hitting at it. He needed Wanda basically to bring Vision back to life so he could use Vision. I don't know. Maybe there's something else there too. Who knows? I'm all over the place with this show.
Well, you know, there is another thing. We did see Monica enter the Hex for the third or fourth time, I believe, or the third time, but this time it got trippy. In the comics, there have been a lot of, and yeah, it was. And this time it got trippy. Whenever she came out, I don't know if you guys noticed, the world was different colors. She could see sounds, essentially. And so, but in the comic books, there have been a lot of different people that have used Captain Marvel's name in Marvel Comics. About half a dozen characters have stepped into the boots before Carol Danvers made it the title synonymous with herself. But the very first successor of Captain Marvel was Monica Rambeau. And so it's essentially, do you guys believe this 100%, you know, that not Wanda, but Monica has powers now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the theory that, and I was thinking about it. First, I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I think she can become Captain Marvel, right? Because they're obviously not doing any movies anymore, and I don't see Brie Larson coming back to the silver screen to the TV series. I mean, I could be wrong, but if they can't get her to play Captain Marvel, then this is a great transition.
Yeah, because the big theory has been. Oh no, go ahead, Bronwyn.
I was going to say, like, when they were talking about her going in and out of the Hex and like it manipulating her DNA, immediately I was like, okay, superhero origin, we got this. The DNA is being changed. Like, we're going to see something happen from that. Of course, she's going to go back in and like further this process.
Yeah. I think the question now is she Captain Marvel 2.0? Right? Or is she essentially bringing in the new mutants, if you will, right? Mutants in general into the MCU, because we haven't really seen mutants in the MCU except for Scarlet Witch in a way, right? And Pedro. And so like, you know, everybody else has been essentially superheroes from some sort of, you know, asteroid or some shit, you know, like, you know, like, or, you know, mutant spider bites. Right. And so we haven't had actual like genetic mutation yet, but, you know, we've seen, you know, basically this Hex changes your DNA. And so I'm wondering if she is going to be Captain Marvel 2.0, or is she going to be the first of many new mutants that come from what is essentially Wanda's Hex's cosmic background radiation, you know?
That's true. That would be pretty cool. I think they've been trying to get the New Mutants, and I guess that kind of got canned or pushed back. So maybe this is their transition to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
To
wish
make up
Marvel
for the
could.
failure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Make
this
an
week was
omelet out of
actually,
crack eggs.
Yeah.
what was that, Kev?
Making an omelet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this week was even more special. Unlike the other episodes of WandaVision, there was a cut to a post-credit scene. I don't know if you guys saw that. There was a post-credit scene this week. It's got Monica is sneaking around Agnes's house, trying to reconnect with Wanda after Agnes takes her away in the earlier encounter. Monica's snooping leads to the interest of the villain's witchy basement. Before she can make sense of her discovery, she is interrupted by Pietro. As he sneaks up behind Monica, he surprises her by telling her that Snooper's going to snoop. It's unclear if Pietro is still under Agatha's control or not. Either way, Monica reacts with shock, and the scene ends on a cliffhanger. I don't know if you guys also caught in this scene, but the camera transitions. So the big thing that they've done in this series so far, especially with the camera, is that it's been widescreen whenever we're in the show with Wanda and them. We're essentially on Wanda's vision, right? And then it's full screen, pretty much everything whenever we're in the real world. As soon as she walks down into this witchy basement, everything goes, full screen. The same thing happened with Wanda earlier in the show. And so that kind of symbolizes that in Agnes's house, at least, or Agatha's house in the bottom of the basement here, that's the real world. It's as if she already had her kind of like witch's den in this Westview area. And so I guess, one of the big questions that came from this post-credit scene, though, and I'll throw it out to you, Kev, is do you believe Pietro is been under Agatha's control the whole time? Like, has he just been a weird kind of like plug-in in a way?
I think so, or maybe it's not even really Pietro. Maybe it's somebody else.
Mephisto.
Who knows? Could be. But I think there's some sort of influence from her. I think obviously, because like even Monica said, we didn't send them being Sword, and Wanda obviously didn't bring him there, so it has to be her, has to be Agatha or Mephisto or somebody. Yeah, no, really.
Yeah. So I guess before we wrap up the water cooler, what do you guys think is coming in the last 3 episodes that we have going into the show? What do you think is going to happen next week? I guess is where I should start. Bron, what are you feeling?
I think that it'll maybe focus more on Agatha in the next episode and kind of like go into more of her motivations and her kind of be like the central focus of that to lead up to what's going to happen throughout the finale.
Ooh, nice. And somebody just in chat said Agatha Harkness was in the same coven as Madam Web. Ooh, interesting.
That's pretty deep.
The web gets woven. Kev, what do you think is going to go on next week? Do you think it's going to go bigger into Agatha?
I think so, and I think Agatha's going to kind of pull the curtain behind what's going on. And I think, and I'm going to tie this into what my favorite theory about this is that maybe that book that Wanda saw was the Darkhold.
Ooh,
yeah,
that is a big one because it get, and like they never waste a frame. That's what I try to that's one of the things. And so if you usually see something highlighted in one of these shows, it's important. Yeah. Something's of importance there, right? Yeah. And so that's why I also don't think the and I killed Sparky thing. I don't necessarily think that was to say that she was a bad person. I think that was to show us that she did. There's some ritual that I read about too. That was one of my favorite theories, that essentially it's how you can bring Mephisto back or something. And it involves like killing some kind of like creature that's like close to some basically like a witch's kind of like, I think it was either kind of like their assistant or something. I would have to look it up again to get deeper into it. But like that one was pretty interesting too.
Did her brother come in before or after Sparky died? I forget. Was Pietro like there before
same
or
episode?
After?
I believe.
Because that could be like showing, like if that's the case, if this ritual brings Mephisto back, then that
You're
is
right.
pointing
You're
to
right.
him. Yeah.
That was at the end of the episode. That happened the same episode, but Pietro came in at the end of the episode. So maybe you're onto something, Bron.
Ooh, that is interesting. Yeah. What's your favorite theory so far, Bron?
The one I just came up with.
Nice. Yeah. The Quicksilver is actually Mephisto. That would be what a spin. And then I think Kev, you're thinking what's his name's actual Mephisto. We'll call it here. And then I think Sparky was Mephisto. No, I'm just like, the dog was the whole time.
And now he's dead, and we're all safe.
Yeah.
But yeah. So no, we could really see House of M here. So I'm really excited to see where this show goes. But we'll have to tune in next week. We've got 3 more episodes, which, I found this online. I'm not 100% sure. I believe it was from a credible source, but apparently each one of these next 3 episodes are going to be clocking an hour. So they're definitely going to be juicy episodes.
Okay.
And so
I'm excited for that.
I don't know about you guys, but I think this has been more than making up for a whole year without Marvel content.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, that about does it for the first half of our show. We're going to take about a quick 5-minute break to shift gears, but don't go anywhere. We've got a great second half of the show coming up. Stay tuned for our deep dive and top zen, which both are very finale-esque, if you will. Special shout out to any new followers, any new subs, cheers, all that great stuff. Thank you guys that's been popping off in chat. I know that Incubus Games, I've seen, our boy Dodd, obviously, has been taking a few breaks from slaying White Walkers to come and chat with everyone. Thanks, Littlest Nelly, Sag, everybody that's been popping off so far.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, we're going to take a quick break, and so we'll be right back. But don't you go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
Who's that Pokemon?
That Pokemon, by the way. Awesome. Welcome back, guys. That was a quick one. We are, we're very quick with our breaks. We like to come back as fast as possible. So thank you for sticking around. You have now made it to the deep dive section of the show. And as good as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. This week is our season 1 finale. And boy, it's been a great first season for Geeklife. Every season of a show has its highs and its lows. We've had some technical difficulties, life events, and pandemic to deal with throughout this whole first season. Some episodes have reached hundreds, others just my mom. But tonight we wanted to talk about finales, the big finishes, the money shots, if you will. We wanted to dive deep into what makes a good one, what makes a bad one, who crushed it on their way out, and who killed their brand while they were trying to just say goodbye. Kev, we'll start with you tonight. What's the difference between a season finale and a series finale? Just so the folks at home don't think that this is the last episode of Geek Life.
Yeah, so season finale basically means that you're taking a break. It's the end of a chapter. Think of it as a book. And then the series finale is the end of that book. And this is the end of chapter 1 for Geek Life. So, yeah, we'll be back soon.
100%. Yeah, no, it's always, it's always great to make that distinction. I didn't want the people at home to think that the show was over. We're just going to be taking a little break. We'll be right back. But, it's almost been a complete year since we started this thing. And I think like most shows, we've grown a lot, right? I think that's the telltale sign of a good show is to grow throughout it, right? And so, Braun, what do you think makes a good season finale?
Season finale or series finale? The season finale. Okay. Season finale. Well, I think that there should be with a season finale, a resolution, but also kind of like a cliffhanger, like a little bit of both. So you want to feel a little bit resolved, but you also want to be excited for what's going to happen in the next season. As I think that is the main thing that I'm looking for is that like, ooh, what's going to happen next? So that if you are like binging it on Netflix and there's like tons of seasons afterwards, so you're going to be like, okay, I got this. Let's go right back in for the next. It's kind of what I'm looking for.
No, 100%. It's something that kind of like it resolves something big from that season, right? Where you're just like, hell yeah, that was good shit. But then doesn't resolve the entire thing so that you're not, complete. You're still hungry. You still want more, right? Mm-hmm. So Kev, what do you think? What makes a banger season finale?
No, I agree with what Brian said that, I think there has to be a resolution, right? You have to have some sort of closure to what you have been watching all season, and then like some sort of cliffhanger, something that draws you back, something that leaves you wanting more. And like, oh, I have to wait 3 months so I can start watching the show again to do it all over again. So I think having that balance or those two elements completed is what's critical for it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Braun, what do you think makes a good series finale? The big finish.
Yeah, for the series finale, I feel like you want more of that sense of resolution and less of that cliffhanger. I mean, maybe there's some sort of ambiguous endings that are still really satisfying, but I do think that you kind of crave that more of that resolving it, because there's nothing worse than a show that gets kind of like canceled before they have the chance to actually create
That's
that
always
episode, and then
awful.
you're always
Right.
left really wanting too much more because they didn't end it thinking that they were ending it. So it's always really obvious, I feel like. And so you want a deeper sense of resolution.
No, 100%. What about you, Kev? What do you feel makes a good series finale?
Yeah, I think it's got to. I mean, it just has to make sense first off, but we'll go into that later.
Yeah.
And I think it has to stay true to the brand of the show or the message and identity of the show, right? Like too many times you'll watch a series finale and you're like, what the fuck was that? And I think that happens a lot of time because one, either A, the writers get switched out or whatever, and B, the show's gone on entirely too long, i.e. X-Files, i.e. whatever. Or the show ends sweetly, perfectly, chef's kiss, like The Good Place, right? Like where you feel a sense of peace after it, right? Where it's like, this is goodbye and I'm okay with it.
Well, that's the big thing, I think, in a series finale, especially, is that there's something almost like cathartic about it. There's got to be, as human beings, we like closure in things.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
the reason why we even host funerals and we do stuff
Yeah.
like that, is because we need to say goodbye to things, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's one of those where, like, a show, especially one that we watch over seasons, which is
Yeah.
essentially over years. You know, we grow as people as the show grows. You know, you start to feel
Right.
really close to characters. And I think that's a reason why The Office and some of those or whatever can crush you with a season
Yeah.
finale and make
Right.
you cry, you know, and make you
Right.
laugh
Well-
and everything, because, you know, you really get connected to them. And that's the whole, like, telltale of a great kind of finale, is that it's almost like a happy funeral, you know?
Yeah, well, my girlfriend Angelica says it like she calls them her friends, right? Like whenever her shows like that she watches or whatever, like you grow a relationship or attachment to these characters, and I think when it's time to end things, or where things ends, you want like, I know when I have a good series finale, or when I watch a good series finale, when I don't want to watch anything else after that for like the entire day for a long time, because my palate has been cleansed. I don't want to ruin that last memory I had of something that was good with another distraction or something.
No, 100%. And so, some shows crush it. Others destroy their whole brand on a season finale or series finale. We've talked about shows in the past like Lost, Dexter, Game of Thrones that really drop the ball when it comes to wrapping things up with a bow. But Bron, what do you think makes for a good season finale? And I know you kind of went into that earlier. So what are some examples of some of your favorite endings, I guess?
Well, I think we'll get into a little bit more of these as we go on deeper in like the top 10, but just to name a few shows, I think that Battlestar Galactica did it really well with their series finale, with kind of like making you feel that sense of like, oh, this is what the show is building up to, and you really feel resolved and you're like excited sort of for the future. I also think that this is interesting too, because like a show like Arrested Development, when it initially ended, I felt really satisfied with that finale of the series, but then they rebooted it for Netflix. So it was like, oh, that wasn't the end. But I feel like that point that it was the end really felt like this is like it wrapped up really neatly in the show. And then they decided to like reboot it. So I think that's kind of when a show kind of comes back to life. Also, I think that shows that have like really cute endings, like Parks and Rec, I feel like you really feel at the end of that show, like all of your friends within the show, all of the people that you like invested in, you're like, oh wow, like this is where they are now, and I'm really happy with that. So you really just feel for all the characters, and you really are like leaving them in a good spot, kind of like feeling like the characters that you care about are in a good place. And maybe that is part of what makes the series finales good, is like, are these characters that I'm invested in, what's happening for them right now? And am I happy about that, or am I not? So that could be part of what makes that a good series finale. But what about you, Kev? What do you think? Some of your examples.
Yeah, my example, well, I said The Good Place. I think that's a good one. Honestly, and this is I might get some hate for this, but Agents of Shield, I was, not to spoil anything, but it's been over a year now. But the way they went out, I thought was appropriate. It was kind of like a send off. It was like one of these reunions where like flash forwards of like a few years after the big event happened, and they're all catching up, and then they all part ways to go on with their lives, that sort of thing. And then, those are the two examples that come to mind. I just have too many examples of shows that gone on too long and just ended poorly. Or shows that got canceled. So, but like I said, it's hard to end the show. It's very hard to end the show, and I think that's why so many get it wrong. And again, creative kind of gets stifled by executives in some of these scenarios, where it's rushed, or even the entire show, that entire season doesn't make sense for some stupid executive decisions. But yeah, I think those two are the most. I'm sure I'm definitely forgetting like a fuck ton, but those are just the two most recent ones. I think this because of the two most recent series finales that I've experienced. So
I know it's always about the relevancy, right? Like when's the last time I watched it? And so like I think about that a lot. But I think it's funny that you brought up Parks and Rec. I think Amy Poehler and Tina Fey just crush it with ending shows. So Parks and Rec was phenomenal. Then you've got 30 Rock. I don't know if you guys ever watched it all the way through. It's one of those shows where you can pick up any episode and watch it, right? But if you watch it all the way through and you get really connected with the characters, that season finale of 30 Rock is phenomenal. It's one of the greatest, season finales out there. And so series finales, I mean. And so they just really wrapped it up very well. But it's interesting, Bron, you brought up another thing that I thought about was, things ending happily. Because I think one of the best finales ever is got to be Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad did a great job closing out that show, but it was not a happy ending. And so it's one of those where like, even though it was kind of like almost, the protagonist that you followed throughout this whole thing didn't change his ways. He didn't, I don't think Walter White ever became a better person. Right. And so it's one of those things where like, he kind of finally got what almost he deserved. And in that way we felt closure. And I've always thought that was the interesting thing about Breaking Bad is that there was no kind of like hero's story where Walter White, there was in the way that he comes and saves Jesse. Sorry for any spoilers. But, it's I guess there was a little bit of a redemption there. Yeah. But it wasn't like they didn't try to make him into a brand new kind of man, a new hero, right? He still died a drug dealer.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had a pretty banger series finale. It's a classic one.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
Cheers ends very similarly with the turning out the lights. Yeah. I think that's an iconic way to end the show is to just like, like flip out the light. And then you got to look around. You got to do that look around, Ted Danson did the same thing. Yeah. Will Smith.
Anytime I leave a place for either a really long time or indefinitely, like I'm just I take it around and I flick the light off and I just leave.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, are there any shows that you guys, speaking of Fresh Prince, I think that's a good one. Are there any shows that you think got better with time where the ending actually made it worth kind of like going back and rewatching? Because now that you know the full story, it's almost like, shit, there could have been things I missed. Let me go back and look at it. Kev, what do you think? Are there any shows that got better with time, kind of aged like a fine wine, if you will?
God, that usually doesn't happen. I think shows hit their peak at around 5 seasons. After that, it gets very weird and wonky.
Community had the saying 6 seasons in a movie, though.
Yeah, I know. But once you get past 5, once you get to like 7, 8, 9, it just starts to become like a thing. It's like everything's duct taped together. It feels like. So I don't know. I can't really by that principle. I don't know if there's a show that's aged well where I'm like, season 2 was rough, but season 11, and again, those are two extremes. I'm sure like The Good Place, I think I'll use that as a good example because you find out like the big reveal in The Good Place happened season 1, and they still were able to capitalize off the momentum and figure out what to do while keeping the integrity of the show consistent. So I think that was a show that kind of aged well. But again, that was 5 seasons. So yeah.
Ron, what about you? Any shows that you know you feel like made it better with time, or what about I think you make it even more broad. Shows that maybe had Easter eggs, and so you kind of wanted to go back and see if you missed anything, especially past the series finale, which may have had a big twist in it.
Well, I think that, a show that kind of really grew on me and one that I have gone back and rewatched would be Bojack Horseman. And maybe that doesn't end like on the most positive notes. Like I know like the last season was really hard to watch for me.
It is.
It was, yeah.
If you're going through it can be a hard season to watch.
But I do think that is one of those shows where it just gets better and better with each season and doesn't lose the momentum, and they end it when they need to end it. And it makes this whole complete package of a thing where like they don't try to kind of beat the dead horse with seasons.
The view from halfway down, the funeral episode of Bojack is still one of the strongest episodes. Like, man, it's hard to go back and watch that series for that very reason. I think one that sticks out to me and I know I'm going to be
terrifying.
Yeah, I know, right?
Really. Like that, I got goosebumps for that. It was like, no, not really.
That poem was actually written by one of the show writers, and because I looked into it, because I was like, it's such a strong poem, and and so the whole I talked about it way too much after I watched it, like because me and Jessica, I would be like, do you even think about what he's saying? He's like, you jump and it's about the view from halfway down. Like once you get halfway, you're like, fuck that. Like I can feel the sun. Everything's awesome. I don't want to be on my way down, And so which is, I think, anyway, mental health, obviously, that show gets into some pretty dark things. And so, but I think that's what we applaud it for, right? Because I think it brings up topics that we all kind of think about, and it's through a horse and a cat, through comedy, right? Which, tragedy plus time is comedy, but a good ending can make or break a show's legacy. A bad season finale can cause the show to go on a trajectory that the fans completely hate. A bad series finale can make you go into the I'll never watch that shit again category. Kev, what is the best example of the worst season finale that you've ever seen?
I'm glad I got here first because it's obviously Game of Thrones. It's obviously Game of Thrones, and not only that was a bad
season popping off right now with Game of Thrones.
That was a bad season. Like not a bad, like usually bad series finales. It's like it's either a mess season or it's like a good season with a terrible finale. This was just terrible. What was it? 6 episodes?
Yeah. All 6 episodes
like,
were bad.
And we're all living there like, what the fuck? Like, remember the coffee cup on the table? Like, it was just like they just said, fuck it. Like, let's just get to Star Wars. Let's get this over with.
And they had so much money, and they had the ability, they had the time, because HBO has said that they tried to offer more seasons, and the people were like, and they turned it down. Yeah, like, and so it's one of those,
because they wanted to work on Star Wars, which they don't even get to anymore. They didn't say why, but I'm assuming it had to do something with that fiasco that was Game of Thrones.
And I ask people all the time, we've been locked in our homes, and I've said it on this show, so I'll say it again. Yeah. We've been locked in our homes for a year now, and I have heard no one, literally no one. I've never heard anybody go, yeah, I'm rewatching Game of Thrones, which would be one of those shows to where if the season finale and everything had ended correctly, we would have all rewatched by now, because there are so many little tidbits, right? There's so many things that carry over into other seasons. And then they threw all continuity out in the last season, basically took a shit on the fans and said like, hey, we don't ever want you to rewatch this again.
Right. Unraveled everything. Like nothing was anything that was written and done in the show didn't matter. Jon Snow being half Targaryen didn't matter.
Who here has a better story than the guy who has no fucking story? Like, the Raven, get the fuck out of here! Like,
yeah, literally, like he was gone and just came back. It was like, I came all this way. What? Like, I don't know. But you know what though, and I have another theory. I think the reason why George R.R. Martin is taking so long is because I think he did write something like that. Because there was something where he always says, he was like, oh yeah, even though they're off the books, it's still very accurate to what I'm writing. Yeah. And then this shit drops out, and he's like, oh no, I would never do something like that. And now it's taking,
we're just like shit.
Right, it's taking. We're in quarantine. like no one's really been going. Like what's been taking so long, George?
You're right. He should have had that book done. He should have had.
That's what I'm saying. I think.
What about you, Braun? Any big examples stick out to you for the worst endings ever?
I mean, that's hard to kind of determine, especially because just talk Game of Thrones. But I mean, a show that really disappointed me towards the end was The Office, just because I feel like they had a good place to end it, and then they're like keep coming out with things. I'm like, I really don't care about Andy being the boss like at all.
Right.
Like that whole season.
Yeah.
Really?
It was so bad that they had to bring James Spader, and I love James Spader.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like you, and it's kind of hard to back to what I was talking to before. Like, obviously, The Office continually going on was an executive decision. Like they do that all the time, especially on network shows where like this is making too much money. We can't take it off the air. And we're gonna string this along, i.e., 90s babies. Remember this X-Files, that shit show.
They strung that along, dude. Right. When you kill off Mulder, and then
Mulder found out what happened to his sister. It went on for 4 seasons long after that. Even Mulder and Scully weren't the X-Files agents.
They weren't
anymore.
even the agents anymore. It's like that's when you've really started to shit the bed, is whenever you've got different people play, because it was Scully and Mulder. You know what I mean? Like that's the two, and then you try to do that. They tried to Scrubs it, which is another one. Scrubs. It's another one that shit the bed. And I've seen a lot of people in chat talking about Sabrina, because we do have the Sabrina graphic, which is another one that shit the bed. I would actually, I want to say Sabrina was a great show. Like it really was a good Netflix show. I enjoyed the witchiness of it. And even though I'm not a member of the Satanic Temple, I enjoy hearing Hell Satan on TV. And so it's one of those where like, it was a great show. And for them to kind of rush into that shit and the way it ended, it was gross. It was gross, to say the least.
And that wasn't even a long show either.
It wasn't. They literally, I think they did like 4 seasons, and then they decided to like Netflix canned it. But it's one of those where it really goes to show too, that I think they found out while in the season that this was going to be the last season. So they had to like pack a bunch of shit in there. And I feel bad for the creatives whenever something like that happens, because they try to give you the experience that we want, which is a nice little bow on top, a good season finale. But they can't, because they literally don't have the time to end the show the way they want to. We literally fought. Sabrina fought the toughest demon she had ever fought, and she beat one each episode. Something that would have usually took like seasons for her to do, they did in like one season, and we're just like, all right, she beat all the elder gods. Bye.
It's hard, man.
But Scrubs is another one. And I am gonna say Community as well. I know like Community, we were talking about it earlier, but it's one that like starts so strong. Oh yeah, somebody in chat did say How I Met Your Mother also. I never got into How I Met Your Mother.
I've never seen that yet.
Yeah.
Dude, it made no sense. She found spoiler alert. I'm sorry, but it's been like 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Spoiler.
It's been a while, yeah.
He marries the mom, and then she dies. And then he goes back, and they're like, oh, yeah, Dad, you told this entire story because you're obviously interested in Robin. What? That doesn't make sense.
Wait, and that's a show where the entire plot of the show is like building
about how he met their mother.
What's going to happen? And who's the mother? I didn't watch the show that much, but like, is it someone you're satisfied with? Like, you're
1000% satisfied. It made sense. So the last episode was like one of these weird. He met the mom, and then it goes into like a future of how they lived out their lives and all the characters and what they're up to and stuff. And then the show ends. It's like, and then I loved your mom and all the things he did right in that up until that moment until she got sick. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And even that season, right? So that whole season was about Barney and Robin getting married, which is big because if you know the show, Barney is a complete,
he's the player, right?
He's a womanizer.
He's a womanizer, right?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. He's a womanizer, and finally he met somebody who he could settle down with. And Robin, same with Robin, right? She was always just kind of like independent. She never wanted to be tied down or married or anything like that. And it was weird how these two kind of came together. And the whole season was about their marriage. And then literally in the beginning of the series finale, they get divorced.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's, I mean, there's, and I know I brought up Scrubs briefly, but I just feel like if anybody it sucks whenever the first couple seasons of a show are so good. And Scrubs is one of those. You get so invested in the characters, and then you can really tell a show's about to really start to fall off whenever they start to try to replace integral characters. And I don't understand why Hollywood has not finally got it through their fucking skulls that, like, you can't replace main characters with some new character and then make us watch another 6 seasons of garbage. You know what I mean? Like they tried to replace literally the whole cast of Scrubs.
Spin-off.
That 70 show was another one they tried to replace the whole cast essentially.
Yeah.
Scrubs, they tried to do that shit. Like it's a lot of shows like that. X-Files, like you said earlier, and that's when you really know the show is about to just start heading straight downhill. Because we like it for the characters, like you said. Even your girlfriend, they're our friends essentially. Right. I spent more time with Michael Scott than I did my own boss at some points in my life. Yeah, exactly. And so, and not getting the closure that you need is, it's super, super like a big disappointment when it comes to a lot of these shows. But anyway, well, that'll about wrap it up for our deep dive this week. It honestly transitions really, really smoothly into our, tops in for the week. And man, as I said earlier, the season 1 finale of Geek Life is here. After 26 amazing episodes, we'll be taking a short break. But that got us all thinking, who really nailed the art of a season finale? We talked a little bit about them in the top or in the deep dive, but for our top Zen, we wanted to do just that. This is the top 10 season finales of all time. And this is not necessarily series finales. Some of these may be series finales. Some of them are season finales. So just wanted to get that out of the way. Starting off with number 10, Kev, tell the people who we have kicking off our countdown.
Jake, when I saw you filling out this list, I saw what was on here, and I immediately highlighted this for myself because, Arrow, Leanne, you. Coincidentally, users on IMDb happen to rank this as the best overall episode in the history of the CW Network's Arrow. It was. Season 4 is often cited as a low point for the series. Season 7, 6, but that's debatable. We'll get onto that another way. But season 5 things back up. Leanne Yu was the season's final episode, and it brought the show full circle by taking things back to the island where it all began. Oliver Queen teamed up with old rivals like Slade Wilson to do battle with one of his greatest foes, Adrian Chase. Fantastic antagonist, by the way, super underrated. Yes. It was an intense war that led to one of the best cliffhangers of the decade. God, I will watch that again. I might watch it after the show. Just that episode. Oliver saved his son from Chase, but it may have cost him dearly as the island holding all of his friends was blown the fuck up. Also, by a subsequent death kill switch that Chase sort of implanted himself once he killed himself right in front of Oliver. Guys, Jake, I know you've seen it. Bron, have you seen the Arrow season 5 season finale?
I have not.
Oh my God.
No.
This is what sucked me back in, honestly. I was starting to really fall off the Arrow train, and then season 5 was like, oh shit. All right. Did we hire the writers back?
Season 5 was so that whole season was incredible because, like you said, season 3, after season 2 was amazing. Season 2, in my opinion, was the best season.
I think Dot even nailed it. 1, 2, and 5.
Right.
Great.
That's it. That's all you need to watch. That's all you need to watch of Arrow. Just watch one.
Okay.
That's all you need. But that whole the Adrian Chase, they finally brought an antagonist that rivaled Arrow, and it made sense because the problem with the show was it started getting weird with magic and super power. He was fighting other shit that just didn't make sense, right? This
kill
as
Arrow.
much flack as they got, right. As much flack as they got, where it was oh, he's analogous of Batman. Well, Arrow's always been analogous of Batman, and they kind of hinted at Christopher Nolan's style of writing when they did the show. So all of the antagonists and his story, his plot lines made sense for the character. But once they started changing the identity up, that's when it started going down. But season 5 really got back to that. And then with all the blows that you thought was going to happen at the end of this season, Jesus, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It was great.
No, it was one of probably the best season finales of a show. Like I said, that season in general was really good. So you knew it was ramping up to something awesome. And, it really got me back into it. But that is, definitely, it doesn't take a detective to figure out that was a great season finale, but it does take a detective to maybe figure out the next one. Bronwyn, who do you got at number 9 on the countdown this week?
Number 9 on the countdown, we have Sherlock with the Reichenbach Fall series finale of season 2, how they ended season 2. BBC's America's Sherlock helped launch both Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman into superstardom. Each season is only 3 episodes, but they play out like mystery films. None executed this better than the season 2's incredible Reichenbach Fall. It pitted Sherlock Holmes against his greatest adversary, Jim Moriarty. The two geniuses competed in the ultimate battle of wits, and it was riveting to watch unfold. The famous rooftop scene is one of the best of the decade. Moriarty has Sherlock beat and even shoots himself in the head to ensure that Sherlock would have to die to save his friends. And Sherlock does so, leaping off a building while saying an emotional goodbye to Watson, ending the series on one of the greatest cliffhangers ever. Did you guys get a chance to watch this show?
No, I know it launched Benedict Cumberbatch's career, but I honestly, I've never gotten a chance to see it. Even though I would say I'm a fan of Sherlock Holmes. I always liked, the Robert Downey Jr. movies. For as much shit as they got, it was still, I'll watch Robert Downey Jr. in anything. So like, you could literally put him in a Tiger King movie, which honestly, that'd be great. Anyway, and so like, I love him in anything. What about you, Kev?
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about the show, and this is one of the season finales that is talked about when you Google what are some of the best season finales. So I'm familiar with it, but I've never actually seen it myself. But I'm here for anything Benedict Cumberbatch related. I'll definitely go check it out.
This show is great. You should watch it. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time, and I love the character. I've read a lot of the Sherlock Holmes stories. It's just they're all so interesting and just mind-boggling and a little creepy too, which I like. So this show does a really good job of taking that universe into the modern day, I feel like, in a way that really makes it its own thing, because they use technology, they use a lot of the modern kind of devices to their advantage. So I think it's a great show.
Yeah, no, and speaking of, it's definitely one that I want to get back into. But speaking of shows that, whenever you Google kind of like the best endings of all time, you'll get not only this episode, but the episode that it's parodied off of. Number 8 this week is The Simpsons Who Shot Mr. Burns. The Simpsons parody of the classic Dallas episode Who Shot JR was a murder mystery in this series, and it's really The Simpsons' only 2-parter ever, which is really interesting. As fans awaited the conclusion during the summer of 1995, so throwing it way back, right? I don't know, Bronwyn, were you born? And so, but the shooting moved past.
That's when I was born.
Yeah, 95. Nice. Nailed it. So I was 5 years old. Anyway, the shooting moved past parody into genuine mystery as the identity of the culprit became a hot topic in its own right. During the time, this was all over different newspapers. People were talking everywhere about who shot Mr. Burns. And while there were laughs, of course, Who Shot Mr. Burns is actually pretty dark, all things considering. Without a doubt, it makes The Simpsons highest peaks of it's one of the Simpsons highest peaks of cultural relevance, and people still reference the episode to this day. And I believe it even came out later that it was Maggie who had shot Mr. Burns. And so very interesting, just how that came full circle. But even though it's an older show, have you guys ever gotten a chance to go back and rewatch The Simpsons? Because it's one of those that where I never watched it episodically that much. But, now that it's all on Disney Plus, I've been rewatching it. And the first couple seasons season 1's a little iffy, but season 2 really starts to kick things off. And it's a really good show. It's the fucking Simpsons. So who am I talking about? Of course, it's a good show.
One of my mass comm professors was a huge Simpsons fan. And I think one of our entire, I guess, part of the curriculum was a whole week of The Simpsons. So I'm very familiar with this episode and its impact on the pop culture pulse at the time, right? TV really Guide, if you will, was covering that. It was on the cover of TV Guide and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And God, do you remember TV? Anyways,
it's crazy.
So,
during its time, if you took it right now, every Gen Zer would be making a TikTok about it or something. I don't know.
No, for sure.
It was a phenomenon. It was one of those things that everybody was talking about. Who shot Mr. Burns? It was just like who shot JR, which was hilarious because it was a parody.
Even before I watched this for an exam, oddly enough, that's how much money I spent on that. Anyway, like I even remember like when I was a child, like remember just seeing this on like on the network on all the commercials and stuff, like the iconic image of him laying over the compass, like bloodied and stuff. You're like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? So.
And it was Mr. Burns. So, the fact that the central richest man in Springfield and owner of the power plant was gone, it was going to be a huge debacle. Right. But moving right along into number 7 on our countdown is another show that's, I believe a Fox original, but it's definitely one that I've gotten sunk into a few episodes. But Kevin, can you tell us about number 7 on the countdown this week?
Yes, I can. When Fringe first debuted, J.J. Abrams was still the producer with the Midas touch behind his hits like Lost and Alias and Felicity, if you were into that kind of thing. So audiences are troubled when Fringe wasn't an instant winner like his previous works. The uneven sci-fi series got it together by the end of season 2, however, delivering a blockbuster 2-part finale that finally capitalized on all the series and the talent behind it had to offer. In the world of Fringe, a second universe exists parallel with ours, and its inhabitants are secretly plotting war. When Peter, played by Joshua Jackson, recently revealed to be a native of that side, is taken the superpowered Olivia, played by Anna Torf, resolves to do this unthinkable venture to the other side and bring him back. Armed with brain-addled geniuses Walter Bishop, enigmatic William Bell, and a couple of equally empowered individuals, Olivia crosses universes and discovers just how different things are over there. On Earth 2, Fringe even plagues the island of Manhattan regularly, and Fringe division agents are publicly celebrated heroes in sharp contrast to the covert operations that they are over here. Walters is Secretary of Defense, the man behind all the small-scale attacks on Earth 1, and somehow Peter figures into his ultimate plot. In the effort to get audiences to return, Abrams gave us a great special effects that depict the differences in Earth 2. Some small and some huge, and action sequences like knockdown, drag-out fight between Olivia and her ruthless Earth 2 double, and the final twist is pure J.J. Abrams. Simple yet genius, leaving the viewer thirsty for the next season. Jake, I heard you perk up once you saw this was on the list.
Yeah. No,
how does this resonate with you?
Honestly, it's a spoiler for me because I never got to finish Fringe, but it's definitely one that makes me want to go back and finish Fringe. Did not realize we got into Earth 1 and Earth 2s and different universes and shit. This is one of those where like actually hearing the ending makes me want to go back and watch the show that we were talking about earlier. And so I had no idea that we got into separate universes, but JJ, he's JJ. Like, we're on first name basis, by the way. We're best friends. JJ, he's going to do what JJ want to do, right? And what JJ want to do is throw some crazy sci-fi shit our way. And so, he does always leave you kind of thirsting for the next episode. That was one of the biggest things. Lost was so good at just grabbing you by the balls and saying like, hey, you're coming back next week. Me and Jessica were talking about it, and I could not imagine watching Lost in real time,
it was so stressful.
Yeah, it had to be. Jesus, like if you didn't have the ability to binge that show, oh Lord,
it was rough.
Peace be with you.
Yeah.
But speaking of sci-fi brilliance, number 5 on the countdown, or actually, sorry, number 6 on the countdown this week is probably one of the best-known sci-fi series of the last decade. Bronwyn, tell the people what we got at number 6.
We have Battlestar Galactica. Oh my gosh, this show, guys. I love this show. I think I have every season on DVD. Like that's how into this show I was when it was coming out. But
What's
let's just get into this
instead of fuck.
Frack.
Frack. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Give the people fracking 6.
Frackin' 6. By the end of its second season, Sci-Fi's low-key genius, politically charged thriller had perfected not only the art of the finale proper, but the mid-season cliffhanger as well. When season 2, considered the series' strongest season, resumed, it built towards a cutthroat presidential race between the increasingly ruthless Laura Roslin and the traitorous, spineless genius Guy Spaltar. The race is colored by the discovery of a habitable planet on which the fleeing fleet, the last vestiges of humanity after the Cylons' vengeful robotic servants turned terrorists, nuked all of the human planets in the pilot episode, could finally settle down and make a home. Baltar winning the election turns out to be the worst thing possible for the fleet, as his self-serving actions inadvertently lead the pursuing Cylons right to the doorstep precisely 1 year after they've settled. His quick surrender and the fact that the fleet is grown comfortable and thus unprepared to run or do battle leaves the tens of thousands of humans at the mercy of Cylon invaders. Admiral Adama is forced to take the defenseless battleship and run for the time being, but he awesomely promises, "We'll be back. Don't let the goofy name fool you." This was one of the best dramas of the past decade. Get familiar on Netflix.
I definitely will. I'll have to, because I've always heard nothing but good things about Battlestar Galactica. And honestly, I look like one of the fucking guys who watch, or my bad, one of the fracking guys who would probably watch Battlestar Galactica. So I'm gonna, I may definitely have to get into it.
Yeah,
now that I know it's on Netflix.
Yeah, and if you know The Office, like you're familiar, like Jim is always making fun of Dwight for like being into Battlestar Galactica. It's like
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. It's this like running joke. And I mean, I'm one of those nerds who just like was so into Battlestar, so I get it.
No, 100%.
Yeah, it's something I need to get into too. I don't think, like a lot of shows that came out in the 2000s, I just didn't get into because one, I didn't have the attention span as a kid to sit in front of a television and watch it, and then like you said, Jake, having to wait a week. Man, I'm gonna play video games. But
no, exactly.
This is something that resonates hard with the geek and nerd culture, and it's something that I feel like I've done a disservice to. I have not seen it, so I need to check it out.
Same.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. I think it was the episodicness and the waiting that made me, as a younger dude, just not fuck with shows. Like I used to just not watch as much, like not big drama shows, really, right? Like I would still watch like comedies and stuff like that, but like But yeah, well, speaking of your huge drama shows, number 5 was one of probably the biggest of all time until the last season.
Just so you're aware, this is just to preface this. This is the best season finales, not series finales.
Not series finales, seasons finales.
So we don't get in trouble for this.
And so number 5 on the list is Game of Thrones, The Winds of Winter. Considering the backlash of the disappointing final season, it's difficult to even mention Game of Thrones positively these days. But let's not forget that when the show was great, it was nearly untouchable. The season 6 finale, The Winds of Winter, was peak Game of Thrones. It opened with a moment fans have long awaited for, as Arya killed Walder Frey and avenged the Red Wedding, which was another one that almost made this list. So, but it was actually episode 9. Anyway, that's a big thing about Game of Thrones. Their episode 9 was usually the finale, and 10 was usually setting you up for the next season. But anyway, then you had the phenomenally laid out scene where Cersei destroyed the Sept with wildfire, which, iconic, made tons of memes. Everybody talked about it. And it also confirmed the famous R+L=J theory of Jon Snow's lineage. The unbelievable hour end with Daenerys finally making her long-awaited trip to that episode ended with Daenerys finally making her long-awaited trip to Westeros. So this was, the season 6 finale. It was a little bit before the series completely shit the bed, and I think it's probably one of the highest rated episodes of Game of Thrones history, which is saying a lot considering, all of the different kind of season finales that it's had throughout the years and all the different episodes. But this was definitely one of the most packed ones, and I think people just really loved Arya getting revenge for the Red Wedding. What do you guys think?
and it all went downhill from there. But yeah, it's right. It's weird, right? Like this was peak Game of Thrones. Like
Yeah.
they're coming over, they're coming over to Westeros, and like you said, Arya gets revenge. Everything's coming together. You're like, oh shit, I can't wait for season 7. And then 7 and 8 happen, and yeah. Anyway, but this episode itself, like you said, just chef's kiss, perfect. Everything wrapped together in a nice little bow. Everything, like every type, like Bron was saying, where you're getting resolutions, not just from a season, but an entire series, basically leading up to this point. And then you have a cliffhanger at the end because shit's about to go down.
And this is one of those moments that shows the strength of the writing and of the production of this. So it gets you excited. And it also just makes their downfall that much more disappointing because they are capable of giving us what we want. They are, but they don't.
Yeah. But they don't. They gave the people what they wanted for a long time until it's almost like we weren't bored of it. They got bored of it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of directors getting a little off the rails, Kevin, who do you got for us at number 4?
Yes, Jake, it's Lost Through the Looking Glass. And again, season finale, not series finale.
Yes.
Lost didn't create the flashback narrative technique, of course, but it mastered it in an impressive manner that spawned much acclaim and imitation. It also threatened to suffocate the show. 3 seasons in, it was painfully clear that the creators were straining to continue to create character-centric flashbacks that resonated and enriched the castaways' backstories. Flat tales like the story nobody really wanted to know about Jack Stacker 2, Locke being a gullible fool for the 47th time, or Saeed facing a personification of his shady past yet again left the once rapturous audience bored, while others were saddled with increasingly ridiculous additions to their bios. Kate was once married, Desmond was a monk. So how did they rejuvenate the series? By abandoning their bread and butter format for a bolder one and setting an end date for the series that would effectively kill all wheel spinning in favor of renewed momentum and the promise that all the island shenanigans would build to an actual straightforward conclusion. The declaration that Lost was back in the game would be summed up with one game-changing scene, a Jack flashback that ended with a mysterious meetup with a woman who would turn out to be Kate. Whoa. Dun, dun, dun. Intrigue doesn't stop there, as the flash forward ends with a future despondent alcoholic Jack screaming that they have to go back. For 3 seasons, we figured the series' endgame would center on the castaways finally getting off the island. The reveal that there was much, much more at stake was simply ingenious. The masterful twist wasn't the only aspect that makes Through the Looking Glass and classic. The on-island events are just as, if not more poignant, as the castaways finally take down the antagonistic island cabal. The others and set the stage for a rescue team that we discover may have more sinister plans in mind. All of the action is underscored by Charlie's underwater sacrifice to point the rescuers in the right direction as the series sends off one of its most beloved characters in a fittingly emotional fashion. We'll also still have its problems during the final 3 years, but this is the episode that convinced many to stay with it while convincing the rest of us that we were watching something truly historic unfold. You know what this reminds me of? It really reminds me of Arrow, Lian Yu, right? Where it's like you have these kind of dull moments where you're getting bored and confused as to what direction the show's going.
Yeah.
And then they hit you with this fucking bombshell. You're like, oh shit, it's back. You know? Like, and again, it's another show that used flashbacks, right? Like that was the whole problem with Arrow, where it was 5 years on an island, then you get to 5 years in the present, you ran out of flashbacks. So what do? It's kind of, you kind of see the same similarities with Lost here.
No, most definitely. And this series, I mean, in general, Lost ends. I mean, dude, we can all talk about how shit the ending of Lost is because of how it's just not complete, right? You don't feel the kind of sense of complete that we kind of talked about earlier in the deep dive. But man, season finales, Lost had them. There's a reason why people kept coming back to this show, and it's because of episodes like this and how they sent Charlie off, like you said, in an emotional fashion. That's that's putting it lightly. I think the way Charlie died in that whole sacrificing scene, it's gripping. It's really good TV. J.J. Abrams was nailing it for a long time, but obviously good things must come to an end. And so did the good episodes of Lost, which JJ has actually come out and said before that they had 4 seasons written and they came back and said, yeah, we want 7. And so they were like, oh fuck, how do we spread this out? You know, like, and it ended up making what we ended up seeing today.
That's
But
usually how it goes.
oh yeah, no, most of the time that is. But one of the most beloved ones is making it up to number 3. Bronwyn, why don't you tell the people who's number 3 on the list?
At number 3, we have Parks and Recreation, One Last Ride. And this actually is the series finale as well. And a case could be made that the best NBC workplace comedy of the decade wasn't The Office, but was in fact Parks and Recreation instead, which I agree with. It had more of a consistent high quality throughout its run. And right up to that series finale, One Last Ride, this hour managed to hit everyone right in the feels. One Last Ride wrapped up the present day storylines of each character, but whenever Leslie physically interacted with one of them, it flashed forward to how their future went. Each of these scenes was touching and perfect for the characters audiences had come to love over the years. So it really did a good job of just leaving you feeling just overjoyed and happy. I was like very like tearing up at this series finale.
Yeah, I think Parks and Rec really nailed it. It was a good season, series, everything kind of finale in a way. What about you, Kev?
Yeah. No, I agree. And again, another show that didn't overstay its welcome, so to speak. And I always like these. I like these episodes when they're done well, where it doesn't wrap up with an end in the present time, but it jumps forward a little bit into the future to kind of show you where everyone's at. I think that's always a good way to like kind of give you some sort of resolution.
I like a look into the future. And I think some people don't like that. And I think some shows shy away from it because they feel like they can't do like reboots or like whatever. But I like that because it's definitely like a fun way to kind of, Silicon Valley did that in a way too. Where it kind of showed where folks were in the future. And you're just like, okay, cool. Well, you get to see that Richard really did just completely fuck up his whole life.
Oh my gosh, talk about bad series finales.
Yeah, I know. That I wish I would have thought about that one earlier. Silicon Valley is definitely one of them.
Worst list.
We wanted to end on a positive note.
Yeah.
But we were, while, a lot of people try to make the argument that the best NBC workplace comedy was Parks and Rec, I think the internet would say otherwise. And it's probably the GOAT, which is The Office, which is number 2 on our countdown, The Office episode finale. The first of a few series finales that you'll find on this, list goes to this list is essentially made up of a lot of great shows, but none other than The Office is definitely right here on the top. The show ran for 201 episodes spanning 9 seasons on NBC. It went through plenty of changes as well as highs and lows. Let's not even talk about when Will Ferrell was the boss. And when it ended, it was beautiful. Finale saw the characters react to the ending of the documentary that was being filmed the entire time. The 2-part episode wrapped things up perfectly. From Erin finding her birth mother to Angela marrying Dwight to the perfect return of Michael Scott with his classic, "That's What She Said." It gave viewers everything that they wanted. Not many shows within history can really stick the landing, but I personally feel like The Office did it. What do you guys think about the series finale of The Office and bringing back Michael Scott in those emotional moments?
I think it doesn't quite make up for the whole series, though. The whole season. It's like, the ending, like the last couple episodes were good, but like that whole last season was just so terrible that I don't know. I don't think it hits as high on my list.
It was nice to come back to because I was in love with The Office, and then that final season happened, and I just couldn't do it. And the funny thing is, like, that was at a time where I didn't know I could hate things that I loved, and I think I wasn't sure what's going on there. Right, I was like, man, why don't I want to watch the show? And then, as I got older, I was like, oh, I just really didn't like that shit. And but eventually I came down. I was like, all right, let me just close this book forever. And then I came back, and I thought it was nice. I'll say that. But yeah, it was nice.
I give it extra points for bringing back Steve Carell. I think that season shit the bed. They knew it was time to take Old Yeller behind the barn. They took it behind the barn, and they said, yo, but before you go, here's a dog treat. And then threw Steve Carell at us.
That's true. That's true.
Pulled that trigger.
And that's usually hard to do, to bring back the main character.
Yes, especially after they've moved on and became these huge stars like Carell had, and it's just one of those where, like, the reason why it definitely made it top of the list, at least from my perspective, was just that it's one of the few season finales of a show that have definitely made me tear up. You know, like I definitely felt like, oh my god, like, you know, this is it's because those 2-part episodes is a good story. And it's like they had written that before they had wrote the whole season. And then I don't know, but like I definitely feel like it ended strong even after well, it was a pretty bad season, right? But speaking of bad, you guys are probably going to hate number 1, but maybe not hate it, but definitely I've seen a lot of chatter in the chat. You know, there's been a lot of votes for the Fresh Prince. You know, I even saw some people talking about Buffy, which, you know, had a great ending. Buffy really did.
Yeah.
But I don't think any series or, you know, thing had a better finale than number 1 on our list. And Kev, you're going to tell us who number 1 is and tell the people why it's number 1.
Yeah, and this is why, Jake, because it had, not only did it have a great season finale, it had a great series finale. That doesn't happen too often.
Yes.
That's why it's number 1, and there can only be one. Breaking Bad Face Off. The series finale of Breaking Bad had a strong case for the list, but season 4's Face Off gets the slight nod. The episode was everything that made this series such a force in the world of television. For one, it wrapped up the Gustavo Fring arc with a bang, as half of his face was literally blown off in his death, hence the episode title. But it also set things in motion for the final season. The revelation that Walter poisoned young Brock to get Jesse on his side was a new low for the character. It culminated in him breaking bad and showed that he'd do anything to keep his power. This is simply one of the finest hours of television in history.
Yeah. No, the reason it definitely makes number 1 for me, and I felt, I mean, shit, and I made the list, so sorry, but but this episode alone, like you said, not only set us up for, you know, the next season, but it kind of like closed out everything from the show so far and kind of left you thinking like, holy shit, what is this last season going to be? Right. And Breaking Bad's just one of those shows I highly recommend going back and watching if you haven't. It's not one of those that, you know, when people's like, oh, don't believe the hype. Believe the hype with Breaking Bad. It's a great show, and it's one of AMC's finest shows, and it really put AMC on the map for a little while there. And so, you know, it's just one of those where like this is a great season finale for what was essentially a great series all around. You know, Gustavo was probably one of the best TV villains in a long time, and then for him to die, and it showed that Walter White was this kind of devious murderer. More so than we knew, right? With the killing of a child to get Jesse on his side. It was a huge revelation. And it really kind of put the nail in the coffin for Walter White as far as like fans were concerned when it came to maybe his redemption song being in this next season. It was almost like, hey, you think this guy's going to end up being a good guy? This is called Breaking Bad, not Breaking Good. And so, you know, they went really hard and showed that he literally killed this child just to get his way, and that nothing was going to stand in his way. And I think that's why it made number 1 for me. You know, I know that there's probably some beef with that, but Ron, have you ever got a chance to watch Breaking Bad?
Yes, and also, I was almost at this series finale premiere. I have the biggest FOMO ever. They did this whole series finale event at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and they like played side by side the very first episode, the very last episode. My mom and my brother went. They invited me, but this was when I was moving to Alabama to go to college, and I was just like, should have waited a week to go to class, is what I've always kind of thought. To like actually be there with the whole cast experiencing this would have been fucking incredible.
That would have been dope.
But
there's nothing like coming onto a show late and missing like all the hype that was going around with it during the time, where like you try to come up to your friends like, dude, this show's so amazing. We're like, yeah, dude, I've already been there. I'm mostly checked out now. You know?
No, like if I beg people to watch shows that I enjoy, because like I'll talk about it no matter what. Like if you're just now starting something, but what really gets me upset is when it's happening and people aren't watching. I think
sometimes I'll go back and watch it with them just to experience it all over again.
Oh, exactly. But I think what makes me more upset is when it's a cultural phenomenon and people just refuse to jump on it. You know, like how Game of Thrones was for a long time. People are just like, oh, I'm proud to say I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones. And they won in the long run. But at the time, they were just not a part of something that was such a huge cultural.
Right. Right.
You know, like it just always blew my mind. It's like I get it. It's like the people who are just like, oh, is there a sports game on today? And it's just like, dude, it's the fucking Super Bowl. Like, grow up. Like,
I know.
grow up. Like, we all like
no.
the Super Bowl, and if you don't like the Super Bowl, it's not for you. It doesn't matter.
Then
It's
don't like the Super Bowl, but
then
you don't
don't
have to be
like it,
pretentious about it. Yeah,
you gotta be pretentious about it. And so, but Breaking Bad definitely, like chat's popping off about Better Call Saul, was a great spinoff. I think that's another reaon why Buffy needs to make honorable mention. Angel, phenomenal spinoff, and that show really completed itself as well. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. You know, Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was, someone else in chat said that one. That one did have some good endings, some good series finales, and good season finales too. Avatar really does wrap things up with a bow, so that's facts right there. Gotta definitely agree with them on that one. And I get that Good Place, didn't have it. Yeah, we didn't wrap it up here. I don't. While it ended well, I could have had more Good Place. That's why, I think it kind of doesn't make it for me. Is that I think it ended too soon. I think they pulled the plug way too soon. That thing had some life in it. So anyway,
that's fair.
That's my thoughts, and I'm sticking to it. Any other honorable mentions from you guys?
Honorable mention, Geeklife season 1 series finale.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. We really nailed it. That's the one. That's the one. Cool. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Geek Life. Thank you for, I hope you enjoyed it. I felt like we had a lot of fun. I had fun. Thanks for coming, neighbors. If you want more Geek Life in your life, you can always follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all of the stuffs. We have it all in the description.
Instagram.
There's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. If you just want to hear my voice in your ear while you work, you can download our podcast on Spotify, and I'll talk real slow and sultry.
It's really great.
But where can they find you guys at? Bronwyn, where can they find you at if they want more Braun?
You can find me at Space Nymph on Instagram and on Twitch. Come see me.
Roll Tide. And Kev, where can they find you at?
Yeah, Kevin Todd Jr. and Totally Awesome. And some quick shout outs. We had some new subs, I think. Shout out to Fad Sachs for subs 5 minutes in advance. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Co-host and Geek Lifer here. And also shout out to everyone in Nerd Herd, man. We made it, guys. Season 1's a wrap. But we'll be back. We'll be back, and we'll be around. So,
and we're definitely going to still be producing some content in the meantime. So stay up to date in the Nerd Herd. Yeah, it's not a long break. We're just going to be off air for about 3 weeks while we kind of catch up on some content, cut some old content, get the TikTok really going too. That's a big one that I really want us to kind of beef up a little bit. So we're going to be producing a lot of content and probably some of our other areas, just not Twitch every Sunday. We'll be back right after 3 weeks. And like Dodd said in the chat, free game Fridays. I think we're still going to be doing some sus Saturdays with Sax. So definitely please join.
The show coming out soon too, some workout videos, some gamer workouts, dressing up in cosplay. Come see me.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. Super excited for those. And so special shout outs to everybody that's subbed, everybody that's followed. It looks like we got a new follower too. Wrong priority, which is nice.
The right priority today.
Yeah, you got the right priority. Thank you for subbing, and thanks Caperdoodle for the year. And obviously all the subs. And thanks to our moderators, Worst Bane, which is the Dot. He's been watching us all night, and Littlest Nelly. I know you've also been popping off in the chat, so thank you for that. Shout out to our producer, Cape. Honestly, this first season couldn't have done it without you, bud. Everything that you do behind the scenes is phenomenal. You make all of this look like we're professional, and yet we're not. And so, thanks for making us look better than we are. You do a great job, Cape. And then obviously Dodd on the design side, hosting so much this season. Thanks for that. Thanks, SAG, for stepping up, hosting some weeks, and then or not hosting some weeks, but being on the show for that 1 week, and hopefully in future ones, and then hosting Saturdays with Sax, man. That's a phenomenal thing that I'm glad that we really got going on the show. And so thank you, Sax. Thanks, Sag. You've been, tuning in every week. It's great to see some of these guys. Pistachio, I know, is a big one too. Lucifer, I know we had him a little bit earlier. He was one. Incubus Games, I know you're a little bit newer, but welcome to the show. We'll be right back. We're going to have all kinds of cool shit. It's going to be great. We're excited. So thank you guys. We will not be back next week, but we will be back very shortly. I believe, what is this? Hold on. Let's see. Let's do it. The 28th. Yeah. That's like what? March 21st? I believe
Something
we'll be
like
back roughly March 21st, which is essentially
Yeah.
a year since we started this thing. So think about that.
Yeah.
We'll honestly be back right around the year anniversary. So stay tuned, stay up to date in the Discord, or follow us on all of our socials. Until then, stay nerdy, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.